everybody, Dan Illman and Mike Beer with the DRF Race of the Day presented by DRF Bets. Our race of the day for Thursday, October the 20th, race number 8 at Keeneland. It's a full field of 3-year-old allowance horses, second to level allowance horses to be precise. They're going 1 1/8 miles. Let's take a look at this group. It is truly a full field. You've got 12 in the body of the race, 13 through 16 also eligibles. Creative Minister is in here, Mike, third in the Preakness earlier this year. He's still trying to get over the hump. He just missed last time out.
He tailed off a little after a pretty good performance in the Preakness, actually, Dan. They pressed on with him in some tougher races. It felt like maybe he was regressing a little bit, but last time they ran him in the Bourbon Trail. 6 of these horses, half this field is exiting the Bourbon Trail. Creative Minister ran best of those.
There are some very promising horses in this bunch. A win by one of them, you might see them in a stakes race down the road, perhaps at Churchill Downs. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector. We're expecting a fast pace in this full field. Major General, the 9, is a horse that hasn't been on the lead in his last several starts. He has chased some fast paces. I would have to think, though, that St. Tappet, breaking from the inside post, and especially Big Blue Line, the 2, those horses are going to be very forward.
Yeah, they both have inside posts. They both have speed. Both of them were in that Bourbon Trail, and they were up and part of what was a very solid pace in that race before they both faded through the lane. I'm with you. I think they're both going to go forward in here.
I want to talk a little bit more about the number 1, St. Tappet. What a pedigree by Tappet out of Havre de Grace, who was one of the better fillies and mares we've seen in the last 20, 25 years or so. This one won his first 2 starts sprinting. You would think with this pedigree, they couldn't wait for him to go long. They sent him long in the Bourbon Trial, and he was up close to that fast pace, but he tired really badly.
It was pretty disappointed in there. The pace was solid, to be sure, but he was up close to it. But man, he did not run that well in there. It was a big step back. His first 2 starts, they're both sprints, but he ran really well in both of those races. There's talent here, Dan. He deserves another shot. I'm not going to be surprised when he figures it out going long.
I think the Lasix going back on is key. You look at that running line and the way he finished last time out. I wonder. Maybe he did bleed without Lasix last time out. He gets it again for Pletcher, and that bad running line just helps his price, you would think, on Thursday. The 2 is Big Blue Line. He was also in that race at Churchill Downs. He was the pace setter in there. He also tired pretty badly at the end. They've tested him in his last 3 against stakes horses. He's been found wanting, and even though he's dropping into an allowance race, this is a stakes caliber allowance.
That's the real problem with him. I feel like you could, maybe give him the benefit of the doubt for that last one because he did go a pretty good pace in that race. But he gets no class relief here, Dan. A bunch of the horses that just finished ahead of him are right back in this race with him. He's got to find some way to get a more comfortable trip. It seems like he wants to be on the lead. He's got to get a more comfortable trip up there.
The number 3, Droppin' G's, is going to return from about a 4-month layoff coming out of an Ohio Derby that produced a couple of next out winners. Tawny Port, the winner of the Ohio Derby, came back to run a somewhat surprising 3rd in the Jim Dandy at Saratoga with a 99 buyer. Droppin' G's, I think, lacks a little upside that some of the others might have after 11 starts, however. And despite getting a good pace in the Ohio Derby, he was merely 1 paced in the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll see. I feel like his connections are trying to find the right race to run him in. Unfortunately for them coming back to his available condition here, Dan, he just doesn't get any class relief. His only 3 dirt starts so far against Howell and Time, Rattle and Roll, Cyberknife, Tawny Port. I mean, he's been very tough in his races. He's in tough again.
The 4, Maximum Impact, goes out for trainer Lynn Cash, and he just really didn't fire last time at Churchill. He now hasn't broken well in his last 2 races. I actually don't mind him at this longer distance, but we've seen him before, and he's been banging around and claiming races. He sort of runs to the level of his competition.
Yeah, a little cheap for a field like this one. He was 53-1 in the Bourbon Trail last time. Will be a similar price.
Seraphos is going to go turf to dirt for trainer Graham Motion. Well, watch his most recent dirt race. It's a week off turf, non-winners of 2 Life at Delaware, where he got a very good trip in a short field, staying relatively close to a slow pace and then drawing off to beat a couple of next out turf winners. He's going to have to do a lot better than this. You see, he's kind of drifting out a bit in the stretch.
Yeah, he is. Something going on there. It looks like maybe even his rider lost his iron there.
Yeah.
But he wins that race really easily, Dan. Every dirt start since they come back from the layoff, he just kept getting a little bit better. Every race, he would take a step forward, take a step forward. He took that step forward there. They went back to turf with him last time for some reason. It didn't work out. I like this horse getting back to dirt.
Magoo, the number 6, is dangled for the $125,000 optional claiming price. He's won his last 2 starts on dirt, including this race at Canterbury Park, going a mile back on August the 14th, a race in which he set a contested pace and kept right on going as the odds-on favorite. Career best Beyer speed figure of 84. He might have to deal with a little bit more pace heat this time around.
Yeah, it's a much tougher scenario for him against a way better field, but he's another horse. At least you can say he keeps taking incremental steps forward in his races. We've definitely not seen the best of this horse yet.
Actuator, the number 7, began his career on turf, but he's been much better since being switched to dirt for trainer Michael McCarthy. A blowout maiden win followed by a gutsy score in the Indiana Derby. Beat a couple of next out winners. One of them, Rattle and Rolls, come back to win 2 stakes races, one with a 96 Beyer, the other the Oklahoma Derby with a 101 Beyer. Throw out the Alan Jerkins Memorial. He was in against the best 3-year-old dirt sprinter, Jack Christopher.
Yeah, he was pretty bad in the Jerkins. Ultimately, I guess it just turns out cutting him back to sprint was the wrong idea. He just couldn't keep up with those horses, and it was never a factor. His prior 2 starts, however, I thought he ran really well in both of them, Dan. And I thought the Indiana Derby, he only won it by a half. I thought he might have won it a little easier than that. He was under pretty confident handling in that race.
Ethereal Road is a stakes winner this year. He won the Sir Barton on the Preakness undercard. It was sort of a weak race, and I really don't like the fact that Mr. Lucas tried to run this horse on turf a couple of times. That didn't work out. Last time out at Churchill, he ran okay. I would have thought that with the way the pace shaped out, he would have run a little bit better. And right now, he's still known as the horse that scratched out of the Derby, got Rich Strike in, and caused that gigantic upset.
Yeah, he's won some good races too. It's just one of those situations, though. Even with a 3-year-old like him, Dan, it's hard to project any more improvement from him because he never gets any time off for him to sort of develop and maybe come back a fresh horse ready to take a step forward. He has no time off again. He didn't run terribly in the Bourbon Trail last time, but he didn't have an excuse.
Like the 7 Actuator, the 9 Major General is already a graded stakes winner. He won the Iroquois at Churchill Downs in his second start as a 2-year-old, and he's still trying to find that form, although his last race was a race in the right direction. First start, Rudy Brissett finished 3rd in a second-level allowance race. I think that's a race he could build off of, Mike, and I think this distance is fine for him. Pace projector has him on the lead. I see him sitting.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be on the lead either. We'll see what kind of trip he can pull. And then we'll see if he can take the step forward. I really feel like he has to improve, Dan. He won the first 2 starts of his career, one of them a grade 3 on the stretch out. To me, he was more game than anything else in those races. I don't know. I'm not sure how good I think this horse actually is.
Wesley Ward trains the number 10, Casaliac, who's going to make his first start on dirt. He's raced exclusively on turf, and while his 3rd dam is Breeders' Cup Distaff winner Hollywood Wildcat, close up in the pedigree, it's more turfy.
Yeah, I thought it was more turf as well. He's just going to have to be way better on the main track than he is on turf if he's going to contend here. I guess the one thing that he could possibly have going in his favor, Dan, is he's a horse I think likes to be taken back and make one run. I guess that could kind of work in a race like this.
Which Warrior Johnny, the number 11, is going to show up in this race? Is it the one that looked so good at Saratoga 2 starts back going 1 1/8, or the one that was behind Creative Minister last time out at Churchill Downs? In the former race, Warrior Johnny was aggressively ridden. The other pace horse surprisingly took back on the backstretch, but Warrior Johnny got no breathers. The favorite went right after him on the backstretch. He dispatched that horse, kept right on going. He looked like a stakes horse. It just didn't work out last time.
Yeah, I mean, he ran really well too back. I'd be willing. We'll see what kind of price he is. I'd be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for the Bourbon Trail, Dan. I don't want to say he had a big excuse in there, but man, they decided not to go with him in there, and he wound up sort of in and among horses for a long way. It just looked like he was never going to come clear. And then when he finally did, very late in the race, he just didn't really fire that hard. But I didn't love the trip that he got last time.
He'll have to work out a trip. from a tough outside post, as will the last horse in the body of the race, Creative Minister, who of course was third in the Preakness, fifth in the Belmont, has kept right on rolling, finished ahead of 5 of these last time out at Churchill Downs, and simply has the speed figures that make him a very competitive horse in this race. Now, he's probably going to be one of the shorter prices, and he's proven that he can be had in the past from an outside post. Maybe you try to play against him.
Yeah, I wouldn't take too short a price on him for sure. That being said, of the 6 out of that Bourbon Trail, I think he ran the best race pretty clearly, especially when you consider, as they came off that turn, he had to come 5 wide. The winner got right through on the rail, and it made the difference, Dan. This horse was probably best last time.
He was favored in the Smarty Jones, favored in the Curlin. He's done some very good things this year for an excellent trainer in Kenny McPeak. 13 through 16 on the also eligible list. Varying degrees of class for all of them. Of them, who do you take, Mike? Kissalat, just second in the Smarty Jones behind Best Actor. Does Pioneer of Medina, the 15, find his best form with Lasix and blinkers on? A lot of question marks.
Yeah, a lot of question marks on the AE list. I don't think I would, be too high on any of them should they get in. I like the horses in the body of the race.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRFTV videos. Top pick time for our Thursday race of the day, presented by DRF Bets. Actuator the 7, graded stakes winner this year, in tough last time. Good spot for him, Mike.
Yeah, he's got a lot of upside still, Dan. He's very lightly raced. I liked his starts 2 and 3 back. I'm going to give him a pass for the Jerkins. And the 2 horses that I think are his main competition, they're both drawn very wide in here.
Yeah, one of them is my top pick, the 11 Warrior Johnny. Liked the way he won at Saratoga at this distance, 2 starts back. I think Mike made enough of an excuse for him being in and among horses last time out at Churchill. I think there's something here with the son of Cairo Prince. 7-11-2-8 for Mike, 11-12-1-7 for me. It's the Thursday race of the day, the 8th at Keeneland. Best of luck.